Bang! Neeves Knives. I'm Jared, and my lovely wife Kara's at work, and today we are doing the review on the Custom Knife Factory Mkad Empat. So, Mkad is basically Custom Knife Factory's budget knives. Now, their budget knives are still pretty expensive. We'll get more into that in a minute, but their regular knives, Custom Knife Factory's regular knives, they can get up there. They're pretty expensive, but they wanted to be able to bring a little bit better or more affordable knives to some of the people that still are willing to spend, decent money on a knife. So, this knife, right off the bat, let's just get into it. So when I got it, it did have a little bit of a light detent. Now, it was still a reliable flipper. I just want to say that it was very reliable. I could flip it every time if I wanted to and never fail it if I really didn't want to. And it had a very good drop on it. I mean, extremely smooth. But if I didn't, like, the detent was very light. Let's just say that. It was a very light detent, and I wanted to strengthen it up. So, I broke it down, took it all apart. You see it does have a T8 pivot and then T6 screws on the body. And then underneath the carbon fiber scale, there are more T6s. And you'll notice it has multi-roll bearings, which is awesome. And we'll get more into their hardware here in just a little bit. But after I broke it all down, took it all apart, might as well clean it. It wasn't dirty or anything like that. They had, all really nice features nice knives, all really good features that nice knives have. Like, it had the multi-roll bearings. It had a washer to protect the titanium. It didn't have a reverse detent track, but it doesn't need it. Anyway, so after taking it all apart, I began to work on the lock bar. And I pushed it over. I didn't want to push it over too much because I know a little bit can go a very long way when strengthening a lock bar. So you basically want to bend it towards the direction it's already going. And so after doing that, as much as for what I thought would probably be just fine, got it all back together, and which is awesome. So I got it all back together, went together just fine. The hardware seems like pretty good hardware. I'm not a big fan of T6s, but not that big of a deal. Got it all back together, and after getting it all back together and lubed up, Loctited, obviously you want to use Loctite, especially on certain parts like the clip and the pivot. Well, after getting it all back together, now this action is way better. And it's not that it was a bad action. It's just, like I said, the detent was a little light. Now, I can still fail it if I want to, but it just feels a little bit stronger. Now, I might go back into it and make it just a little bit stronger, but as of right now, I'm very happy with it. The action is amazing, and it drops so smooth with its multi-roll bearings. They are frictionless. I don't feel them rolling or anything like that, and it just so smooth. It's not a false shut action, but it's a very controlled action. So, this knife is a Russian knife by a Russian designer, and this blade is in M390. As you can see, this is number 85, and what a great blade shape. It does have this swedge up there to kind of give it the harpoon. I guess more like a harpoon drop point. Nice and tall, flat grind. The geometry is not bad at all. I mean, it's not a, what you would call like an amazing slicer's grind, but it's not like a really hard use grind. It's basically like a great slicing for a harder use knife's geometry, which I'm happy with. I mean, it gets down to relatively thin behind the edge at 15 thousandths directly behind the edge. Now, it does start getting thicker pretty quick, and that's what I mean about the little bit harder use. The spine, I think, is 4 millimeters, which I think is 160 thousandths. And yeah, it cuts really good. We're going to get into the sharpening here in just a minute, but this is the factory edge. So after I put my own edge on there, it is going to cut even better. So let's get into sharpening right now and we'll talk about that. Let's take a good look at this factory edge before I start sharpening. In all reality, I don't really need to sharpen yet, but I wanted to for the video. And also to improve the cutting just a little bit, even though it does cut very well. So when sharpening this thing, I used my Neeves diamond stones and started with the lowest grit I have and worked my way up all the way up through. So went through my low grit and through my medium grit. I did not change the angle. I kept the same angle. I thought about changing the angle, but I was like, I might as well just keep it. I can always lay it back later if I want to, because they did give me a good sharpening tool, and this blade shape is so easy to sharpen. The steel was very easy, and if I had to guess, I would guess the heat treat is pretty good on this. And I only say that because as I went up through the grit, without laying the edge back, it still kept a lot of bite, which was pretty decent, especially since I didn't lay the edge back. Now I imagine if I laid the edge back, it'd have a lot more bite. Now, after getting through my last stone, normally if I do my 1-in-1 passes really good on my last stone with the Neeves stones, I don't need to strop, but I did anyways and stropped it up. You can see it cutting some paper. Cuts really good. I mean, like I said, I did not lay the edge back at all, and we're going to see if it improved the performance here in just a moment. I really got to get a better system for getting really good close-ups of the edge, because that is not easy to do, but you can see from the naked eye it is a mirrored edge. So did the performance increase at all after sharpening? In all honesty, not really. I did not change the angle on the edge, but I have to say this thing cuts really good already. I mean, these ergos, you have so much leverage behind it. So a lot of the, I mean, not only does it have decent blade geometry, so it's already set up to cut pretty good. And I'm not saying it's like an ultimate king slicer, but it cuts really good. Then coupled with these ergos, I mean, it has like a lean to it. When you wrap your hand around, I tend to cut like this, for, you know, with this one, it just feels so comfortable in the hand. My 2 fingers lay right there. These 2 fingers kind of push right up into my palm, and it leans forward. So it always seems like it's aiming at what you're going to cut, which I really like, because like it's got that canted forward feel to it. Like it's always aiming at what you're cutting, and you don't feel like the pressure is pushing back on you. It feels like the handle is set up to basically keep it cranked in that position. So the cutting just feels really good with it. It really does. The jimping, it's not that great at jimping. It doesn't really work, to be honest. It does, for my hands, it doesn't give me really much traction. I mean, it's there, but whatever. Sharpening tool, done very well. You can see the plunge grind is back here. They left you a lot of meat right there. So no problems with sharpening. This was a very, very easy to sharpen. I mean, not only was the blade shape really easy to sharpen, just period, this thing was easy to sharpen, even with the M390. The fit to finish is done really well. It does have a lanyard hole back here. The clip works pretty good. It does have a little bit of a not tight feeling. It's kind of hard to explain, like where it feels like one point of contact. I've explained before what I mean by that, but basically, this is the Kaiser T1. This has a wide point of contact. This has a wide point of contact touching, you know, whatever you're putting it on, or your pants. This feels like it has one point pushing straight down. Maybe I can get it on camera. So seems like that one point is thin, and just kind of, it does have great tension, works really well. No complaints in that area. It just feels like it's a little sharp on the pocket, but not like in a really horrible way. But then look at this one. This seems like it just has a nice smooth coming in and out of the pocket because it has a bigger area of contact directly where it's putting pressure. Hopefully that made sense. A good thing about the clip, though, is that it's inset. Even though it's only one screw, it's inset in the carbon fiber. So it's nice and solid. And I do want to show it does work just fine. It's actually a really good clip. I'm kind of just being nitpicky. Now, the carbon fiber is done very well. You can see the jimping on all these spots. For the most part, everything is very smooth. Even these corners are knocked down really well. So even though it does have this flat surface, it still, has a, I'm not going to say contoured or rounded, but it's comfortable. It's very comfortable in the hand. And even this clip, I barely feel it. I mean, I don't feel it much at all. It just kind of nestles right in my hand. I like that. Like I said, the carbon fiber is done very well. All the lines are very nice. It doesn't seem like they really skimped on, because since this is the budget knife, it doesn't seem like they really, did a lot less or anything like that. I know a lot of times they do reverse detent ramps. They did not with this one, but it's always past the detent when you unlock it. The detent is really early. It's right there, which is far from when it hits your finger. So even if you hold up high, it's still past it. If you hold really high on the lock bar, it's still past it. So in all reality, it does not need a detent ramp. The access to the lock bar, really good. It almost feels like you're pushing a button. It's just it's nice and soft too. Not meaning that the tension, because the tension's kind of soft too. It's a little bit better now that I, tighten the lock bar up a little bit. And the lockup did not change at all. So the lock face geometry is really good. It's locked up, rock solid. I mean, it's very nice like that. But it just feels nice and soft to the touch. Very nice to push. And man, it just drops. Now, even after taking it apart and putting it back together, it went right back to centered without a problem. No adjustments, no nothing. I just tightened the pivot down. It was done. That was it. I literally tightened it down. It was rock solid and went right to centered, and the action was perfect. That means it probably has really good fitment in parts. Like all the parts fit really good. So that's awesome. Like I said, this blade shape is really useful. You can just use it for so many things, and you can take advantage of this if you really want to, this little spot. But the reverse grip is really good for popping straps. I did cut a few straps with this, and this part right here kind of nestles in your hand this way, so it kind of seems like it leans a little bit towards you, but not really. It just feels like that. When you look at it, it's actually pretty straight. So when you do cut straps, you do want to be careful for them not to go up and out, and slip up and out. But as long as you get a good grip and kind of cant your wrist back a little bit when you pop the strap, no issues. And it's pretty comfortable in this grip. Pretty much all the grips are very comfortable. Now, some complaints. Let's do some complaints really quick, and then we'll talk a little bit more about some of the good, because there still is a few more great things about this. So, one thing, I already said that clip, it works really good. It does feel a little bit sharp, but it's not bad. I don't like T6s. T6s are whatever. I don't really like them. And then this lanyard hole, I mean, I don't think a big knife like this really needed a lanyard hole. And this is a little sharp back here. It's not that bad in all reality. I could sit here and do this all day. But I just think about, like, it would have been even nicer if they just took this jimping and jimped it around, where it kind of grabs your hand, because this is nice and jimped, so it nestles in your hand really good for when you're flipping it. It feels really good in the hand. But And maybe it would have made it sharper. I don't know, you know. But I just feel like maybe round this corner off, because it's got like a little corner right there, and just a little jimping, it would have sit nice in the hand and would actually bit, you know, your palm when you flip it. Because when you flip, you're pushing tension down right there. So you don't want it to be slippery, you don't want it to be pokey or anything like that. But in all reality, I kind of just avoid it. It's not that big of a deal. Next bad thing was that lock bar, man. The tension was not, or should I say, the detent. The detent strength was pretty weak off the bat. Like I said, it was still a reliable flipper, but it, you know, it just is what it is. It was a little light, but it was so easy to fix. That's the thing, is that a lot of times, especially when a knife is done really good, it's very easy to fix little things like that. So that's really all the complaints, and that's really not that bad, especially since the biggest one, kind of the biggest one, was easily fixed. So everything else, now they send extra parts with these knives. Their pouch is really good. Custom Knife Factory sends, the authenticity card. They send all kinds of little swag. But this is the big thing for me. They send extra clip, extra hardware, extra bearings. I mean, if you lose something, they got it. They even send you, what is that? An extra steel lock bar insert. That's amazing. What company sends you an extra steel lock bar insert? So basically, like, if your lockup starts getting late in the future, you can change that out and you'll possibly have a brand new knife again, you know, like if for some reason that happened. I don't see that happening, at least not for a very, very long time. But eventually, a lot of knives, their lock bar will work its way over all the way to fully locked up. And I'm not positive if that would fix it by putting a new insert in, but I think it would, because I think it would be wore down. And that's why it would be locked up all the way. You would hope it'd be that and not the blade, I guess, but I think it would help. But that's all. That's amazing. Not too many companies do that. Send you all kinds of parts, or all the parts. Like I said, the ergos are just amazing with this thing. It feels really good. It cuts really good. Super useful. Now, if I was going to say another negative thing, I could say it's kind of basic, right? But in a way, that is what makes it shine. Because to me, I don't, you know, I like extravagant knives and like crazy knives. I like those too. But sometimes just the simplicity of a knife, being a tool, is the best part. And that is a lot of what this is. Great ergos, good blade shape, nice and simple, easy to work on, and it just works. Now, like I said, it does have the T6s, but they give you extra ones. So if you strip one out, bang, you got a new one. So I can't really fault them for the T6s when they already give you the extras. So, yeah, amazing knife. Now, these things run about $300. Does it feel like a $300 knife? Yes and no. I mean, it does feel like a $300 knife in a lot of ways. I mean, they give you the M390. It's done very well, the fit, the finish. But I also feel like there's a lot of knives in the 150 range. Now, maybe it's because they're coming from China that feel very similar. So, are you getting, like extra for the 300? I don't know. I guess it just depends. If this is your style and you like the way it looks, and this is like a knife right up your alley, then yeah, heck yeah. But if you're buying it thinking that the $300 is just getting you something so much extra, I mean, you are getting the multi-row bearings, the extra parts. So maybe it is. I mean, it's hard to say, right? That's kind of a hard answer. But I do feel like it's worth $300. Hopefully that answers your question. I mean, especially with all the extra parts and, yeah, the way it cuts, the way it feels. It is a great knife. Now, obviously, you've seen there was lots of internal milling, so this thing is not heavy at all. It's pretty light, especially for the size of knife it is. Let's show some size comparisons and then we'll wrap this up. The overall length is 8.6 inches with a 3.6 inch blade. Here is a Chris Reeves Sebenza. A little bit shorter, not by much though. They're very comparable in size. And then I still have this knife here for at least another day or two. The Inkosi, or so, the Umnumzun. The Chris Reeve knife's Umnumzun, which is basically the same size. If you know that knife. Now, if you do not know that knife, maybe you might know the Hinder XM18. A little bit shorter, not by much though. Basically the same size as the Sebenza. And then here is the Spyderco Shaman. A little bit shorter, but still, you know, that's a good size knife to compare to. And one more. Here is the Spyderco Manix XL. The Manix 2 XL, which you can see is a lot bigger than it. And here we might as well pull out the little guy. The Manix Lightweight. Manix 2 Lightweight. And you can see how it's, how it's in between these two. So, decent sized knife, it really is. And I do like this knife a lot. Like you know, obviously it sounds like it. It's been a great knife. It just seems like it is a, you know, it's a good knife. And that is the beauty of it. And I like that. So, there you guys go. Mr. Amazing, thank you once again, man. What an amazing knife. And I can't thank you or show my appreciation as much as I want to. And there's so many ways I'm so thankful for how you've treated us this year and the things you've sent us and how much you've helped our channel. We appreciate it, man. Thank you. We love you. And peace out, everybody.